we're going to get into Cincinnati right now. So let's look at what they did in 2022. It was not a pretty year up in Cincinnati. Sum it up in a word, each of you guys. What do you think?
I'm going to say disastrous.
Disastrous. Wow.
I mean, I thought it was salvageable at the end because you saw what they did in April, and that was really, really not great. And I feel like they bounced back a little bit throughout the rest of the season.
Bounced back to finish with 100 losses still. So for context, Cincinnati started the season 3-22. That is just
I mean, that's one of the worst starts to any team in baseball history.
That's right up there with that Tigers team that lost 120 games.
One of those 3 wins came against the Cardinals, by the way.
It did. It did. But yeah, I mean, that's truly awful. The Reds really did have an absolutely brutal season. And then they dealt away the only interesting pieces they had. It was nice to see Drury excel there. But then he was traded to the Padres. Castillo was their best. He's 2-time All-Star. I guess he was their only All-Star this year, dealt to the Mariners and then extended. Who else did they ship out? Malley.
Malley, I think, was before the start of last season, was shipped to the Twins.
You're right. But the remains of that strong pitching staff that they had back in 2020 during COVID year, when they had one of the best pitching staffs in the NL, it's all gone now. Bauer, Malley, DeSclafani, Castillo. To think those guys were all on one team and they couldn't win. Gausman was there too. That's crazy. You've got to be able to win with those guys. But Cincinnati has torn it all down again. So I think this is going to be another long rebuilding year.
You do have a few interesting prospects, though, or not prospects, up and coming young players in Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo. I feel like if the Cardinals were to match up with those 2 pitchers in one series in particular, I would have doubts about the Cardinals winning that series because those 2 guys, when right, can be really nasty.
For sure. Lodolo had an amazing season last year. It was actually better than Hunter Green's, although it was overshadowed because Hunter Green has the higher ceiling and is the more exciting prospect. But, Lodolo last year, looking at his stats right now, was worth about 3 WAR, had an ERA of 3.66, ERA plus of 1.22, so well above average, finished 6th in Rookie of the Year voting. Big strikeout guy, 11.4 per 9, and he threw over 100 innings. So he was out there, he was healthy. I'm really excited to see what he can do in year 2. And then Green obviously was the more exciting of the 2 because that's a starter who throws 100. You don't find those all over the place. So yeah, you're right. They do have 2 budding aces. And then Graham Ashcraft is another interesting name behind those 2 who could do something for them pitching this year. But I still don't think it's going to be enough to start winning games because that offense might be the worst in baseball.
I mean, Hunter Green in the second half of 2022 had a 1.02 ERA. His first half was pretty lackluster with a 5.78, but I think he really put it together in the second half. And if he figured something out, he could definitely be one of the top pitchers in baseball. It could be like a DeGrom type pitcher.
Wow.
Which is really scary.
You heard it here first. Hunter Green comped to Jacob DeGrom. That is bold. I'm not going to go that far, but I do think he's going to be a really good pitcher very soon.
And he's got some filthy stuff. I mean, he's topping like 102 miles per hour with his fastball. And if he's able to work on locating it better, I feel like it's going to be an unstoppable pitch. And
yeah,
his changeup is also pretty nasty as well.
And then correct me if I'm wrong, the Reds have the ingredients to win. Why are they losing 100 games? Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Reds should not have traded Castillo then. You could build a super rotation with these guys. If you've got Castillo still there, 2-time All-Star, he's contended for the Cy Young before. We all know he's loaded with talent. That's why he got that big extension from the Mariners. You've got him. You've got Hunter Green. You've got Nick Lodolo. You can piece together those back 2 guys. They have lots of options. They have lots of internal options to pitch. Graham Ashcraft was pretty good last year. I don't understand why they can't contend. I don't understand why they can't augment the offense by just spending a little bit of money. This feels to me like more Chiefsgate owners.
Yeah, it looks like a Marlins comp if you really think about it. That lineup, I think a couple of those pieces in that lineup, if they figured it out, could definitely be promising. Jonathan India had a really injury-plagued season last year. Definitely didn't live up to the Rookie of the Year.
Absolutely.
That he got in 2021. Joey Votto was also hurt. We know what he can do.
Votto's led the NL in on-base percentage like 9 times now. He's an absolute stud.
And additionally, like Tyler Stevenson looks amazing. And I guess this is going to be his 3rd year coming into the league. And last year, like he just had some terrible luck. I know he got injured. And then when he came back from the IL, he got injured like in the second game back with like a broken thumb and was out for the season. I think that he's an incredible hitter. He just had some bad luck last year. I think he'll have a great season again next year.
Yeah, he definitely looks like a budding talent at the catcher position. And so I look at this team and there's a lot of names. There's a lot of names I really like. And they held on to some guys and then augmented the roster just a little bit this offseason. The team's not expensive right now. They have one of the lowest payrolls in baseball. It would not have been that big a deal to keep Castillo around for one more year and actually try to win. And that bullpen's great. Steamer thinks they're going to have one of the best bullpens in the NL. They've got Edwin Diaz's relative, Alexis Diaz, who was unhittable last year. He had a lower ERA than Edwin. He was amazing, almost untouchable at the back of that pin. And then, Lucas Sims was really good. Art Warren was great last year. So they have a ton of names. The pitching staff looks great. I don't understand why they want to tear it down. And especially with this extra wild card spot, I thought this would make more teams want to go for it, but it feels like it's clearer than ever who the contenders and who the pretenders are. I don't know. It's just a bummer. But we'd love to talk about some of their young talent as well. Some of the prospects there are also really interesting. You've got Ellie De La Cruz coming up soon. He is absolutely loaded with power. One of minor league baseball's most promising talents. He's 10th overall in the new rankings. And he's going to play shortstop, I think, for them. I was looking around and 4 of their top 5 prospects are shortstops. And then 8 of their top 9 are shortstops or third basemen. So they seem to be really loaded up at one position, because then their second best prospect is Noelvi Marte, who they got back in the Castillo trade. So I guess that left side of the infield is going to have a lot of competition. You're going to have to move some of these guys around, though.
Yeah, and Ellie De La Cruz is a very interesting name. He's 21 years old and 6'5". So that's another like O'Neal Cruz type of.
He's going to look a little bit like Aaron Judge there in the batter's box, just towering over the catcher.